Welcome back, everybody. Matt here with Matt and Steve SC, joined again by Moletrap, and we are going to bring you what I've been looking forward to for a very long time here. It's Fantasy versus Jaedong. We're in the semifinals of the Bacchus OSL, and I am stoked about this because mainly, as we've mentioned in previous casts, this is probably going to decide the finals. Now, I'm going to give a spoiler break because we are going to talk about what we just casted, which was Type B versus Yellow. So
and the Pro League.
And the Pro League. We're going to talk about the Pro League. So, and I will tell you right now, if you have not seen the game of Fantasy versus Jaedong in the Pro League, turn this off, stop, and go watch it. Because the Fantasy versus Jaedong game in the Pro League in the day 2 was so good, and it is really kind of providing this ground for this just extreme rivalry coming on here. So, anyways, there's Fantasy on the left, Jaedong on the right. Whoever wins this, spoiler, is going to go on to play Yellow. I just want to make sure. I don't want to piss anybody off. Is going to go on to play Yellow. Yellow played extremely intelligently, very well against Type B, who certainly is a formidable opponent. So we're either going to see a ZVZ or, well, we would have seen a ZVZ or TVZ for the finals anyways, but we're going to be going into this here. This is going to be Heartbreak Ridge. And obviously, the previous OSL Fantasy lost to Jaedong, so this is basically like, and then Fantasy beat Jaedong in the Pro League, so they are now 1-1. This is kind of deciding who is better, who's the better player, and potentially who's going to win the OSL. So I'm super excited about it. What do you guys think?
Well, I want to mention the maps that are going to be played in this because it's kind of interesting. I think they're pretty Terran favored, so I think that Fantasy is going to have an advantage there. You got Heartbreak Ridge as the opening map, and then you've got Outsider, which is kind of more a Zerg map, Holy World, Return of the King, and then Heartbreak Ridge again if it goes to that. Now, Heartbreak Ridge, which is the map you're seeing right here, I think is pretty Terran favored, and the reason I think so is because there's just not as many bases to hold. If you want to go outside of 3 bases, you're going to have to go like way out there, and it's just really hard for a Zerg player to hold those bases way on the outskirts. So it's kind of like, you know, if you don't do a 2-hatch build, which is kind of hard to do because there's such a big distance there, you know, you get 3 hatches and then you're just kind of stuck for a while. So, you know, it's kind of tough for a Zerg player on this map, I think. You got to build, you almost have to build Sunkens at those outskirted, you know, little bases because they're just hard to hold. So I think Jaedong's going to have to do something really creative here. It looks like that was a drone scout that went out for Jaedong. I think that's something definitely he needs to do. Triple revenge.
Wow.
I don't know what exactly that means.
Cool, though.
But, yeah, Jaedong, I think we're going to have to see something creative from Jaedong. You know, if you saw in the last OSL Finals, as I was talking to Moletrap, I was mentioning, I just don't think that Jaedong was that creative, and I honestly was surprised that he won. It looks like first barracks just going up for Fantasy here. Up on the ridge, so maybe gonna hide his barracks a little bit, so that might confuse Jaedong a little. But I just felt that Jaedong wasn't that creative. I mean, he pretty much, once he countered Fantasy's like bio-mech build, he ended up pretty much just going 2-hatch and winning 3 straight games, and Fantasy just couldn't handle it, and I felt like Fantasy broke down. But I just don't think that's gonna happen. I think Fantasy is too creative of a player, and it looks like Fantasy is putting up his gas, so he is probably gonna be at least starting off with, you know, possibly mech, or maybe just going to get a quick factory for a vulture and then switch back to mech green. So it looks like Jaedong has scouted that barracks, so he's gonna know it's there. Obviously he would know pretty quickly anyways, but it just lets him know at least it's not a forward barracks. And it looks like Jaedong has expanded and now is getting his pull.
Friggin' psychic there running the drone up. And yeah, but that was a really big deal actually because without spotting that barracks, well, I guess he spotted the gas, so he knows there's a barracks somewhere. But he knows it's not a proxy barracks, he doesn't have to worry about that. Also means probably not a proxy factory either, because usually he would build that barracks proxy and then proxy the factory with the same SUV. So Jaedong's going to be a little less concerned in that sense. I'm going to disagree with you a little bit about, well, I mean, it wasn't very creative, you're right, going 2-hatch, but I mean, he found a build that perfectly countered Fantasy's build. I don't think there's anything wrong with going for that counter more than once. And it looks like we are going to see some more mech here out of Fantasy. And yeah, just to really quick talk about the games that we were talking about, we were going to spoil earlier. Man, that game was epic, absolute epic between Fantasy and Jaedong.
The Pro League
on
finals.
Outsider, on the Pro League Finals, the first game, and I knew that was going to be the best game, and it did not disappoint. Oh, SCV! Oh, the SCV! Oh, it goes down.
No scout, that's huge.
Wow, no scout and no like blocking Sunkens, no building a bunker. So nicely done on Jaedong's part, and he's not going to know now if he's going to go to a quick lair or something like that. He's not going to know anything about what's going on. I don't think Jaedong's going to let another scout in there go. But anyway, I'll stop talking. talking here in just a minute, but it looks like he's gotten down to 1 SCV on gas. So we're probably going to see that factory producing some vultures. We may even see him switch back into M&M, because now that he's got his command center down, we're not seeing more vultures. Although he's got his barracks floating, so that would be kind of counter that. We're just going to have to see what Fantasy does. Although, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he switched into full mech. Now he's got his extra command center down because he seems to be more comfortable with that. He's had more success with it. Could go either way. Anyway.
I think that, I mean, Fantasy hasn't been doing the fantasy builds recently, because I think that
they've been solved.
They've been solved. That's exactly it. And so he hasn't been able to do that. And I think to kind of go along a little bit with Steve, it's forced him to be more creative. So it's kind of forced him to do something a little bit different with his builds and try to go out on a limb. When he beat Jaedong, the final game was like 9 minutes long, 8 minutes long. He was able to beat Jaedong with a marine bunker rush and with a proxy bunker. And, you know, it's just something like that. We see a starport being built here. So Fantasy might be trying to do something more close to his build. He might be trying to go for like a Valkyrie or a Vulture drop or something like that. You know, we have seen Fantasy successfully quell Mutalisk attacks with his Valkyrie. So, I mean, I don't think it'd be a terrible idea. It does look like Jaedong, I don't know if he suspects Marines, if he's going to try to go for Lurkers here. But that is not something that Fantasy, of course, is going for at this moment, at least from what we can tell. Smart job putting down the mine at the bottom left expansion. That way he knows when Jaedong goes for that. And as Steve mentioned before, it is so hard to hold that expansion. The bottom left and the top right expansions are very difficult for any race to hold. But I think Zerg, almost in particular, you have to get a Nidus Canal up to transfer units between here. And we are going to see a Vulture pass that's going to come in here, but it's not going to go anywhere. And it looks like Jaedong smartly did get the Hydralisk Den, probably just to get the Hydralisk for that purpose. You know, Hydralisks are very good at warding off Vultures, so it was a smart move by there. I think it would be a good idea to go drops if you are in Fantasy right now, because you do have the expansion at the top that you can't really get into very well. Oh! Wow, being able to get the mines off the ridge, that was pretty huge. Able to just pick off one drone going out there. So I think both players at this point are playing cautiously. Obviously, this is game 1 and out of 5, and you're right, Moltrap, that is going to be a drop ship coming out, and we're going to see a Vulture drop. I'm assuming it's going to go on the top base for Jaedong. Towards the left side there. I'm assuming that's what we're going to see here. We're going to see it fairly quickly. And I think it's... Oh, but Jaedong, so smart, has his Overlord sitting there waiting for a drop. Now, luckily, Fantasy saw that, so I don't know if he's going to be able to hide this drop ship or not. But we're going to see a drop coming up here pretty quick. And this is going to be huge. We're going to have to see what Fantasy can do with this. And there's not enough protecting. The Hydralisk going back. Jaedong bringing the Hydralisk back now. And Fantasy is going to be able to mine the crap out of the front area there and go in and take out a lot of drones here. We have 1 drone going down, 2 drones going down, 3 drones, 4 drones. Oh my gosh, this is huge. Fantasy with a very good attack, and Jaedong knows there's mines there. He's going to have to wait for the Overlords, but the Overlord's got Overlord speed. Oh! Losing a ton of Hydralisks there. And Jaedong is, I mean, for 4 Vultures, for a minimum mineral commitment here, Fantasy able to do a lot of damage, taking out another drone and another drone. This was extremely successful for Fantasy, and it is going to set Jaedong back. Jaedong right now at just 2 bases. Fantasy already has 2 bases. Second base already up and running, and I'm going to hand this off. This is exciting, though, but Fantasy's looking really good right now.
Well, Jaedong is just miles behind now. I mean, everything was pretty standard. Hydrus is a standard counter to Vultures, and he has Vulture mines from there, so the game was just progressing normally. But just that drop, it just shows how talented Fantasy is, and to even be able to sneak by all those Overlords was just such a great move. Now it looks like Jaedong has got his 3rd hatchery up, so that's good. I was really worried he wasn't even going to get that hatchery up at all. It looks like Comsat Station is going up now. We haven't seen any Lurkers on the field, and there's no Medic Marines, so there's not really any need for Jaedong to do that. Jaedong's probably just going to try to eventually get Mutas. Oh, and the first Science Vessel goes down. Now that is big, because now Jaedong can go mass Mutas if he wants, or just get a lot of Mutas, and he has that kind of invulnerability because he knows there's not going to be any Radiate. It looks like Jaedong is going to try to push in here. Oh, almost getting taken out by 1 mine. He's got to be careful, but he does have Hydra speed and probably Hydra range now, so he's going to have pretty good. And there's the Mutalisk. Mutas and Hydra is a really good counter against an all-mech army, and because that first Science Vessel is down, Jaedong, or Fantasy, is going to have a harder time protecting his tanks. and he really needs those tanks to make the push. So what we might see here is Jaedong just coming in and trying to snipe those tanks if he can, and that would delay Fantasy tremendously. A lot of turrets going up, so it doesn't like Jaedong is going to be able to do too much with his mutos, but what I was going to say, it looks like he's going to try to come in here a little bit. He has a Scourge just in case there was a Valkyrie or something there. What I was going to say, that Jaedong was hurt here is that his third was going to be so far delayed, but he has actually managed to get his third up, so that's pretty impressive. So I don't want to count Jaedong out of this game yet. He is being a little sloppy though here. I don't know if that's really good to just commit against those Marines when there's so many turrets around. But Jaedong is still just so many drones that he lost. He got delayed so much. It looks like he's finally going to be going towards high pretty soon here as his Queen's Nest is going up. It looks like he has decent saturation on that half tree, but still, Fantasy has been on 2 bases for a really long time. I still feel that Fantasy's economy is going to be a lot better than Jaedong's, but what Jaedong's trying to do is just contain him at his base, see if he can do any little bit of economic damage to come back in the game. And no Sunkens here at this base. Vulture's going to come in again. Again, Fantasy's going to be able to just harass at will and kill all these drones. Poor Jaedong's going to have to pull those drones off. It looks like he's only lost 2 so far.